Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our December Tips and Tricks webinar. This is Fred Foster, and I'm joined this morning by the rest of our Tips and Tricks crew, Carla Simmons, Helen Ramsey, Karen Cefantes, and Andrea Law. This morning we will be reviewing some of the new features coming with version 21.3. 21.3 is currently scheduled to be released in 2 weeks on December 13th. I'd like to turn this over to Carla Simmons, who will be discussing items coming up in our incident management module. Carla?
Thanks, Fred. This winter is merry and has brought many gifts for the holiday season. So sit down and hold on to your hot chocolate because you're about to be transported into the future with this next enhancement. The 21.3 release has brought a whole new look to the incident details screen. The system will now capture the time it's taken to complete each of the incident milestones as demonstrated in this slide. This functionality is really going to allow our EHS operations teams to narrow down workflow pain points in order to work towards better goals in the future. Ebenezer is a grumpy EHS manager that works with one of our customers we partner with. His biggest frustration was that he knew there was a break in their internal process, but couldn't pinpoint just where. Needless to say, he was thrilled when he saw this enhancement in the release notes. His findings showed that it was taking his team 42 days to go through the claim submission process and 26 to complete the investigation report. There is clearly a break if the claim is taking this long to be submitted, and now Ebenezer can work on getting his team to enhance this process. Speaking of enhancements, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to bundle up and get comfortable because we're just getting started. Wait until you see this next configuration. This release is providing users the ability to capture and share lessons learned with others. This is a configurable enhancement, so it means that it is able to be turned on and off. So if you're a system administrator on the call today and want to get your hands on this feature early, fly on over to our UAT site and check it out. You'll be able to see that by clicking on the link, it says incomplete. So we'll click there. You'll be navigated to the details screen. This is going to allow for your lessons learned to be captured. So for example, if this naughty elf is sitting down while he's supposed to be investigating these incidents, no wonder why it's taking 25 days to investigate a case, huh? Well, now his supervisor is able to identify what happened, where and what lessons were learned that can benefit others. This functionality has even included a root cause section and the ability to capture attachments and assign action items. Once saved, this information turns into a really nice report that can be accessed from the Lessons Learned list screen. And here we have our Lessons Learned list screen. The Lessons Learned list screen can be found by navigating to the breadcrumbs on this slide, as you can see on the top left-hand side. Having this list screen to track lessons learned as well as reports can be shared and will help promote visibility and awareness that can save the company money over a long run. If you see on the bottom right, I do have an example of what this report can look like, and we have a very easy icon there that will export that report for you. This report can also be emailed to others by selecting the pick list icon, or even send this information to external emails. So the pick list is going to allow you to select current users of the system, or you can select that other option and add in any detail or email that you'd like separated by commas. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, that's all the magic I have for the incident management module today. I'm now going to go ahead and turn it over to Karen to see what's coming up for document management.
Thank you, Carla. I'm very excited to talk about what we can expect with a 21.3 release for document management. Our document management module will now provide you with the capabilities to transfer documents. This feature will not only provide you the option to transfer owner, reviewer, coordinator, and approver, but it will allow you to do this in bulk. So for example, you have a document assigned to a specific user who he or she became inactive or a role has changed. You will now be able, with a single click, be able to transfer all those documents at once. Let's go into the live system so I can show you how easy this can be done. So when you come into your home screen, all you have to do is go into your document management, select document management, transfer document, and here you will be presented with the options of transfer, existing user to be replaced with, replacing with, reasons for the transfer, and the documents that you're going to be transferring. So for example, when you select transfer, you're going to have a drop-down menu and you can select whether it's the owner, the coordinator, the owner and the coordinator, the approver and the reviewer. So for options for today, I'm going to select document owner. This will also provide you with a list of users who have documents that need to be transferred. So for example, I can say Gregory Manso, and we're going to be replacing with John Doe. The reasons for the transfer, we can say there's a role change. And we're going to select which documents we would like to transfer. So we're going to use anything in the public folders, but you have options from private folders or selected specific documents. So I'm going to say public folders, and we're going to go ahead and select transfer. It's going to ask you and verify, are you sure you want to transfer these documents? And you're going to say yes. And that's how easy you're able to transfer documents now with our new feature. We are also offering a new transfer log option. So once you've created all this transfer, you want to make sure you're tracking what's going on and who's changing. So all you have to do is go into your documents, document management, manage your documents. I'm going to go to a very specific document. I'm going to go into here, and you see this document here. I want to know the specific history and what has been the transfers. So all you have to do is select this little caret that's that right here at your right hand side. You have to select your document and select the caret, and when you go into your audit trail, it's going to provide you of the history of the document and all the changes, how many times has it been saved, what are the versions. So it's going to have actions and field edits. So for example, I just transfer all documents to the new owner of John Doe. So you're going to see this here, but you also can see how in the past it was transferred to Gregory Manso. And that's how easy you're able to see transfer owners and view the history of what's going on with that specific document. Now let's go back to our presentation. We also have a new feature where we're adding a new widget into our library. With the release, we have added one more widget for our document management in specific. This new widget is called Release Document Widget. This widget will have the option for you to view the top 5, 10, and 15 most recent documents to your homepage. The widget displays recently released documents and provides you with the filter options of sorting based on release date. Let's go into our system so we can also see how we can add this widget and also change those filters together. Let's go home. And currently I am in my tips and tricks homepage, and I'm going to go ahead and select edit layout. And I'm going to say I would like to add a new widget. I'm going to sort by looking by my widgets for my document management. And you're going to see that now we have recent documents. And I'm going to select add widget. I'm going to close out of here. I'm going to go find my widget. As you can see, here is my widget, and I'm able to select how I'm able to see the documents that I have recently added. By selecting this ellipsis right here, I can go ahead and change my filters, and I can select whether I would like to see the recent 5, 10, or 15. I think 10 might be too much. So I'm going to select 5, and you can select whether you want descending or ascending. And there you can see it. Everything that your top 5 documents that recently were added. And with that, I have concluded all the releases that you can expect for your document management. I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Andy, and thank you.
Erin, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Law, and I will be discussing some enhancements to my favorite module, Occupational Health. Today, we will be going over fit testing encounter modifications, downloading clinic notes, same as SOAP notes, sending emails in clinic notes to include attachment label, values, and checkbox, immunization types, and hiding the characteristics field in the vitals portion of the module. Let's get started. First up, fit testing. The current system only allows single fit records. The new enhancement allows the user to record multiple size respirators and types as needed per employee's job requirements or safety need. Next, we have the above enhancement, which will be quite convenient for printing medical records for patients or specialists as per their request. This is going to be a lifesaver for the clinical team. For those of you attending today's tips and tricks that are not clinical, SOAP is an acronym for Subjective, Objective, Assessment, and Plan. This is the most common method of documentation used by providers to input notes into patients' medical records. They allow providers to record and share information in a universal, systematic, and easy-to-read format. In Managed Clinic Notes, a checkbox will appear beside all records with a Select All or Deselect All option. This tool is amazing coming from a healthcare professional standpoint. This saves so much time that generally we do not have, right? We want to take care of people and not spend all of our time searching for specific medical records and printing each one individually. However, this is an unavoidable part of the job. So you asked and we listened. This way, you can select all the records you want with one click and download, which is a new ad that you can see located at the top right-hand corner of your screen, and bam, done. Please note, Max user can only download 20 clinic notes at a time, or a message will appear, max 20 notes. This here is just an example of your view after choosing the record you want to be downloaded. As you can see, to the right, you have a few options. You can copy the link, download as a PDF, or use tools for additional options, or add text, sticky notes, which I used every day in my career, and or highlight. In this portion, we will discuss the enhancement to clinic notes. Currently, in the existing system, the user cannot send attachments in clinic notes, nor is it configurable. With our enhanced system, you will now be able to attach, for example, outside imaging reports, labs, or specialist reports associated with the employee's clinic note in your system. Yet another useful and efficient way of record keeping in the busy lives of healthcare professionals. This enhancement will improvise usability and utilization of clinic notes. Here's an example of how it looks and how to navigate. You will first go to Module, Occupational Health second, and on to Manage Clinic Notes. From there, we'll select the patient note needed. A new window will appear as the first picture above. You'll see the option to email located in the top right-hand side of that note. It will then open another window and show all the clinic notes listed with the checkbox below left. By default, these will all appear as checked. If user unchecks the box, it will not include those fields in the email. So you want to be very careful about what boxes you check. The email recipient will read, please find the below clinic note summary for John Doe and the date. All the above checks will appear in the email. Reminder, as discussed earlier, additionally, you may send an attachment along with the email. For example, uploaded images or labs. In this section, I'd like to talk about immunization types. Since most of our clients are experiencing the beginning of winter at the moment, not us, we're Floridians, this enhancement comes just in time for, yep, that's right folks, flu season. No better time like now to improve your time management and charting vaccine and immunization type. So let's check it out. Currently in the immunization type field, the drop-down does not populate the immunization based on the categorization and all the vaccines display in the vaccine type selection pick list. The purpose for this enhancement is our customers need the immunization type field to categorize with the different reasons for immunization based on the vaccine type. For example, flu, influenza, if it was needed for travel, things of that nature. So depending on the selection of the categorizations in the immunization type, the system will narrow or filter the vaccine list down to only display the vaccines associated with those categories, which are selected under immunization type. In our enhanced system, you will see a new lookup screen as vaccine category in Administer Immunization. The vaccine category can be created by selecting the vaccines and categorizing them, and based on the category selected, the immunization type would auto-populate values. Currently, you unfortunately are unable to see the vaccine category as this is a private configuration and it is customer specific. So here are some examples for you. If this is something that may interest your team, you absolutely can reach out to your customer success manager and we can enable this feature for you. Above, we're showing the example IMM vaccine code and the immunization type would be influenza. Other types or categories that may be required by employers most likely are hepatitis B if the employee's job subjects them to bloodborne pathogens. And last, we will briefly discuss the hide characteristics field within the vitals portion of the patient's encounter. If this is of interest to your clinical team, please reach out to your CSM. We will absolutely turn on this feature for you. In this section, we've enhanced the characteristics field to be configurable to your necessities. The characteristics field in SpO2 or blood saturation in vitals can be shown or hidden. Enhancement 21.3 will make this mandatory or non-mandatory. To turn on this feature, you definitely can reach out to your customer success manager, touch base with us, and if this is something of interest to your clinical team, we can work together and turn the feature on for you. To navigate to this section, to reference the info in this slide, please first go to Modules, Occupational Health, Manage Encounter Types, and then this will show Encounter Type List, and you would select Vitals. From there, you'll choose Employee and Encounter Type ID, which is location, and you will enter general details. Additionally, the SpO2 or blood saturation field can be hidden if performance is unnecessary and may not be a mandatory field for all. This concludes the presentation on 21.3 occupational health enhancements. I will now lead you to Fred, who is our app builder guru. Please feel free to contact your CSM for any questions you may have, and we'll be more than happy to assist in any way. Have a happy, safe, and healthy upcoming holiday, and thank you kindly for your time. I've had so much fun. It's been my pleasure. Take care.
Thank you, Andy. Now, let's take a look at what changes we can expect to see in the Learning Management module this upcoming release. I am very excited to announce that we have enhanced our reminders notifications. I would like to point out that this will not be a configurable change and everyone will automatically benefit from this new feature. Currently, our system sends reminders to all users who have been selected to participate in the session, and until everyone has completed the session or the window had closed, they will have been receiving notifications. However, I am excited to let everyone know that we have enhanced this feature, and reminders will only be issued to those that have not been marked as exempt, attended, or completed. Continuing with enhanced notifications, our LMS module will now issue notifications to assigned employees when a new course has been added to an existing session. As you can see here, a notification will be sent letting the employee know that a new training session has been created and providing directions as to how to access the course. Please note that this feature is also not configurable and everyone will automatically benefit from this feature. With the 21.3 release, we have updated all of our LMS widgets to now include the additional status as exempt. As you can see here, all of our widgets now contain the new status, providing more visibility across the board. Please note, this update will also be automatic and all of our LMS module users will benefit from this new configuration. And lastly, but definitely not least, for this upcoming release, we'll be having a configurable new feature available, and that is the new status as attend. In some cases, employees are part of a session whose outcome is not judged based on pass or fail, but rather if she or he attended. With this new feature and enhancement, we have added the additional status or outcome as attended. The business logic will be the same as completed, and the certificate will be generated without a score. Thank you all for your time, and that concludes what we can expect in this upcoming release for our LMS module. And now I'm handing it off to Fred.
Thank you, and good morning. Today I'm going to show you some of the new features for App Builder that are coming in version 21.3. To demonstrate these features, I have built an app with information and a video for each. Let's go to the December Tips and Tricks form. And here you can see we have a multiple choice selection of several of the new features. We're going to start off with the grouping and categorization of apps on the home screen. So I'm just going to click the checkbox, and you'll see information about the feature as well as a video appear. With this feature, you'll be able to add categories and assign it to the apps. An app can be part of multiple categories. The user will be able to see the apps by their category on the home screen. A user can filter and sort the categories so that apps appear to your own preference. We will have a recent category, which is system defined, and will show your 4 most recently used apps. And if an app has not been given a category, then it's going to appear in a section called uncategorized. So now let's look at the feature in a little more depth. So to add categorization and grouping, we're first going to go right here to Edit Layout, and you'll see a new option here, Add Category. So I am going to add a category for COVID, and I want to add some apps to that. So I'm going to click over here, Add App, and I'm going to add the COVID apps to that category. I'm going to add another category in here for tips and tricks. And I'll add a couple apps to that. And once I have those apps added, I'll just close this window. We can see them right in here, and I'll hit Save. You'll notice the most recently used apps will be up at the top, but then we have our section for COVID apps, and then we have our tips and tricks, and then we have our uncategorized apps. Additionally, you can add an app to a category through the app. So if I go in here to our December tips and tricks, I'm going to go Modify, and I'm just going to click on a field, and I'm going to go to Form Properties right over here on the right. And right here, you can see the categories. If I click on the drop down here, I could also add it to the COVID category. So this is another way you can add apps to categories from the app itself. Now let's look at data counts displaying on the home screen. Currently, the only way to see data counts, which is the number of forms completed in each app, is to go to the View Data screen. With version 21.3, we have added a toggle on the Edit Layout page to see the number of records that the login user can access. Let's take a look at that. To enable the counts, we're going to go to Edit Layout, and right here there's a toggle, Show Data Counts. I'm going to turn that on. It's going to tell me that my data count preference is saved, and I will hit Save again. And now when we look at each of the apps, you can see a count of the number of records. The count that you're seeing are the number of records that are available to you, the user. So this could vary depending on your security and what you're allowed to view. So it's not necessarily the total records in the app, but it's the number of records that you are able to view. So you can see that on the top left corner of each of the apps. The next enhancement we're going to look at is the ability to perform scheduled actions. With this feature, you can select if an action is immediate or scheduled. If it's scheduled, you will be able to configure it by either time or date when the particular action should be executed. Once the action is executed, it would only be executed again if the user modifies the same record. Now let's go into the video and see how this is set up. Okay, for scheduled actions, I'm going to add a couple of fields into my form. First, I'm going to add a date field. And I'm going to set this date field to be the current date. So I'm going to go right in here. And I'm going to set this as current date. Now I'm going to add a text box. And this is going to be an overdue alert. And I'm going to set this as visible, but not enabled. Now I'm going to save this. And now I'm going to go into App Settings. And I'm going to add an action. And it's going to be a scheduled action. And it's going to be scheduled for the current date plus 7 days out. And so for my conditions, I'm going to say that the current date is not empty. And I am going to set my overdue alert so that it shows overdue. And I'm going to save that. So now in my form, after 7 days, the text box will fill in with the note of overdue. And this is a great tool you can use for firing notifications on this box or things like that. We have redesigned the user interface for sharing apps. The changes include showing different cards for permissions given to a share set. User can navigate to the shared user list or to the permissions. A title can be given to a particular share set to help differentiate share records. And a new share tab is available so you can easily see who the app has been shared with. Let's look at this in a little more detail. To see the redesigned Share UI, we're going to go into our app. And I'm going to go to App Settings. And I'm going to go to Share. And I'm going to add a new share in here. So I'm going to share this with myself. So I'm going to say this is Share with Fred. And I'm going to give myself full rights. I'm going to now click Next. And I want to select a user. So I'm going to select myself, Fred Foster. I'm going to click Save. And you can see here on the share list, we have a title for it. It tells me what permissions I have, who it's shared with, and who did the sharing. If I wanted to add another share, I'm going to call this a share with location, Westlake. And in this case, I'm just going to give limited permissions. I'm going to go here to the locations, and I'm going to select Westlake and save it. So here you can share. It was shared with Westlake. Here are the permissions, the location, and who did it. We've added a new configuration to add access controls over the Excel Export button on the list screen. Access can be configured to either show or hide the button based on the job role of the logged in user. Let's look at this in a little more detail. One of the new features is the ability to restrict access to the export button on the list screen. So if we go to our list screen, you'll notice there's an export button here, which will create a Excel export of what's ever on my list screen. We can restrict that in the new version. So I'm going to go into my app. I'm going to scroll down to the Excel export button. Don't get this mixed up with the PDF export. This is for exporting the form. This is for the list screen. So when I click on it, I can go over here to Access, and I can either hide or show it. I'm going to hide it, and then I'm going to select a role. And I'm going to say that it is DAP Administrators. And I'm going to save this. Now I'll go back to my apps home. I'm going to go to my data screen. And you'll notice I no longer have the export button there. So it's a very easy way to hide the export button for certain roles. For the final feature I'm going to show you today, we have added date filters to the list views. We have added filters for the next 30 days, next 60 days, next 3 months, and next 6 months. We expect that these filters will be especially helpful for those of you who are using our vaccine tracking app. Here is where you can find the new filters. We've added new date filters, which include the next 30 days, next 60 days, next 3 months, and next 6 months. To set these up, we can go to our data screen, or we can go and set it up within the app. I'm going to go in the app, and I'm going to go to App Settings to get to my list. So I'm going to go right here to List Builder, and I've got a field on here for due date. And I can set my filter for some of the new settings, which have next 30 days, next 60, next 3 months, next 6 months. I'll set this for the next 60 days, and I will save that. Now if I go to my data screen, we're showing the due date right there, December 28, which is within the next 60 days. I can also change the filters on my screen right from here. So I've got the new filters here, so it's very easy to make changes. I did want to take a moment to show you how easy it is to build a simple app like this. If we go in to modify the app, the first section that you saw was the multiple choice. And all that was a data source that I added that listed each of the new features. Each of the sections is not visible by default, and we have a set of actions that enables each of the sections. Within each section, I have an image which listed the features, as well as a video linking to YouTube. And if we look at the app settings, here are how the actions are set up. It's very simple. This is the checkbox. If it equals a certain value, then we're going to show that section. The values and the sections are equivalent. So that's all there was to set it up. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for your time today, and on to the next module.
Next up, we have audit management. As I've said many times before, audit management is one of my favorite modules, and I'm so glad that the 21.3 enhancement has wrapped up this year with a bang. I'm going to cover some of our enhancements in the next couple of slides. However, in a few short moments, I'll also be diving into our UAT site to cover some of the industry functionalities in a live demonstration. First up, we have our new audit management widgets. If you've been with Process Map a little while now, you know that we've been concentrating on bringing the data to the forefront of our application. The way we've been doing this is by bringing in widgets so you can add or take away from your landing page to create your own custom views. Our out-of-box, we have shared some module landing pages with our users just for ease of use, but this enhancement is extra special because we have 2 brand new widgets that are going to make our lives so much easier. You see, before, in order to go in and conduct a scheduled audit, you either had to navigate to your calendar or go to your audit manage screen in order to pull it up. But now we have the audit calendar widget. This widget will allow users to see what's scheduled right from their landing pages. The widget displays audits, findings, and the action items from the audit management module. The cards are assigned a color based on the status, and each event is distinguished by a cute little icon that provides some insight on the task. As you can see, the little key is for findings and the flag is for action items. Clicking on the card takes the user to the respective event questionnaire, saving clicks and making the auditing process more efficient. Next, we have my favorite of the 2 widgets for this module, the Audit and Inspection Library. The product development team really put a lot of thought into this one. Not only do users now have a one-stop shop to access all their inspections, but they can actually start the inspection right from the home screen. As if that wasn't enough, we have more options. We can schedule a future inspection, manage the findings for that audit, or we can even pull up all of the action items that were derived from that inspection. This, along with all of our other amazing widgets, can be found in the widget library and simply dragged into your user landing page. These widgets are changing the game completely for this module, making it fun and intuitive. All right now, so our next feature has been requested by many of our system administrators. We recently released the ability to audit employees, and after releasing our asset registry, we added the ability to inspect assets. However, we did receive some feedback about auditing contractors. The pandemic has really changed things for us, and we find ourselves having to audit more than ever before. Many of our users have a need to audit their contractors, whether it's to ensure safety, cleanliness, or even to measure whether or not they're sustainable. Nowadays, many of the companies are trying to decrease their carbon footprint and have realized that this footprint is also impacted by the contractors they work with. This enhancement will allow EHS personnel to add checks and balances to ensure that employees and contractors are safe and sustainable. Let's keep in mind that this is a configurable enhancement as mentioned on the top left of the slide. This means that you'll need a little help from your system administrator or maybe even your CSM to get this functionality turned on. So if it does interest you, please don't hesitate to bring this up on your next TechPoint call. Before I jump into the live demonstration, we have one more enhancement to cover for audit management, and that is the ability to enforce a comment based on a particular response type. In the current system, if a user selects a non-preferred answer to a question, or in layman's terms, makes a question that's not safe or not compliance, they're not mandated to add a comment. We have been getting around this, however, by setting up audits to mandate users to document a finding for any non-conformance. However, some users or system admins feel that the process of documenting a full finding takes up a lot of time and can be cumbersome. So as always, you ask and we answer. After the 21.3 release, system administrators will have the option to select the type of question that they would like to mandate a comment for. But for anyone on the call today, I am a very visual person. If you know me already, you know that. So let me show you better than I can tell you. All right, now that I've dived into the system, I can show you the custom landing page that I've configured using the two new widgets. On the left, we have the calendar widget, and you can see that our audits are actually divided into little segments. The different colors represent the different statuses. We have overdue versus an open item or an open audit, and then we can simply select it and it will actually navigate us all the way back to the audit so we can easily complete it. If we wanted to start a new audit from scratch, I can navigate back to home and refer to the audit and inspection library widget. This widget does divide our audits into different sections, all categories of compliance, corporate EHS policy, DOT compliance, EHS compliance, and it does separate them accordingly. If there's more than 4 audits per section, you do have these little icons on each side that will allow you to toggle back and forth to see the remaining audits. Now, I have prepared a little checklist for us to review today so we can look through the remaining functionality, and that is the snow and ice removal checklist. If I select on this icon, you'll see that you're given options to either start an inspection, schedule an inspection, manage findings, or manage action items. I'm going to go ahead and start an inspection so you can see that this is actually going to navigate me to the audit program details, where I'm able to select an audit type, which in this case will be corporate. I can add my audit name, which is the Winter TNT. I'll put checklist for this one. I can select my audit start date, which I would like it to start on Friday. I can select an end date like normal if it's reoccurring, and I am going to click yes because I want the program to be closed once all the questions are answered. Okay, if we go down here to the advanced details and select the caret, it will open up a secondary section at the bottom. And this here is where we're able to select the ability to enforce question comment if a response type is non-preferred, preferred, or if you ignored the question. So I'm going to go ahead and select non-preferred. And I'm going to go down here for create findings for all audit questions. I'm going to select yes, require root cause no, audit findings, applicability review for this audit, read across findings, I'll go ahead and select no. And then I'm ready to go ahead and perform my audit on the bottom right-hand corner. Okay, so now you'll see that I have the ability to select yes, I have the ability to select no, but if I select no, which is a non-preferred answer, it's going to mandate that I put in a comment. That comment icon is going to be highlighted in red, advising the user that a comment must be entered before this question is classified as complete. I can continue on and answer the remaining of my questions. If I select save, you'll notice that it does allow me to save the data. However, the percentage completed will not be fully completed without these items being taken care of as per this audit. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that kind of wraps it up for today's enhancements. We have covered the audit management new widgets, which is the calendar widget, allows us to look at our upcoming tasks. I do want to also cover that these widgets have filters that you are able to change. You could look at your data by week or by month, or if you'd like to only look at the data or the audits that you have scheduled for today, you can keep the option for the period for today. We can select if we want to filter only audits, only findings, or action items. Right now we have it set to all events, and we do have a view all or my view. My view is going to allow you to see what you have coming up. But for supervisors, the view all option may be beneficial. All right, without further ado, I'd like to turn it over for our next module. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Carla. I am happy to present our latest enhancement to the Sustainability Performance module. Currently, we do not have any configurations to pull data from the Work-Related Incident Country Metrics tab into the Sustainability module. To capture this information, our users would need to key in the data manually. Now, our team heard you, and they provide the ability for you to be able to build a KPI that will pull the counts and or days data from the Incident Management Work-Related Country Metrics Incident tab into the Sustainability Performance module using the Aspect Output Builder. Said a mouthful, didn't I? Let's go ahead and switch over so I can give you a live demo of this change. All right, let's go ahead and get started from the Sustainability Performance module. We're going to dive in straight in Aspect Output Builder. Now, as you can see in Aspect Output Builder, under IMS module outputs, we've added in the incident count metrics as well as the incident day metrics for you to configure a KPI to get the totals. So in this particular example, I'm going to use incident count metrics, which I've already built up an output here. So typically, you would go through the new option to create an output, but in essence of time, I'm just going to go to an already existing one. The first step you would take is to create your output name. So for this one, I'm looking for the company defined recordables as yes. I'm going to select my incident field type as incident type, and my value is going to be injury illness. As you know, I'm looking for my recordable, so it has to be injury illness. And then I'm going to add a field where I can select from the drop down. So as you can see here, we did add, is this a company defined recordable case, as well as is this a recordable case as per local record keeping. Now this particular question applies to your country metrics, so you can also pull that in. Okay. So once I have the information that I'm looking for, I can just simply click on the Save button to continue. Awesome. All right, so now I'm ready to go ahead and, build my KPI. So I'm going to navigate back to Performance Management and go to the Sustainability Company KPI library. So if you are adding a new KPI, you would need to build it as from other module. Okay. However, for this example, I'm going to use an already built out KPI where I actually created this using the number of company defined recordable yes. So of course you put in your required field information, and the key information that you need to be mindful of is your data source. So where is this data going to be coming from? It's going to come from another module. From this particular case, you would just click on your pick list. Now the counts that I've actually created is going to come from the component incident count metrics. So as I scroll down, you will see at the bottom I have my number of company defined recordable as yes, and it's just a matter of selecting that KPI, adding in my classification for the KPI, and then my KPI category. It's going to be safety. This is how I want it categorized. And of course, my data aggregation is going to be sum. So once I save the data, I am ready to go back and add this to my KPI program. So as I navigate back to the sustainability setup, I can go into program management where I would select the program for which I would like to add my KPI. So let's go ahead and add this to my counts. And I'm just going to simply go to the KPI, expand on safety. And as long as the KPI is not there, but I've already added the KPI, it's just a matter of adding the KPI to this list. So as you can see, this has been added. And then, of course, you can never forget, you have to add your reporting frequency for that newly created KPI. So this way, your users will know when they have to go in and report for the KPI. I know I'm excited about this change because this gives you the advantage of bringing in these KPIs into the Insight reports where you can build out some pretty dashboards. So I hope this was of interest to you. And this way, if you are interested in having these functionality with the Aspect Output Builder, feel free to reach out to your customer success manager and they will assist you further. And thank you so much. At this point, I will go ahead and pass the baton over to Gregory Monzo.
Okay, hopefully everybody can hear me correctly. And I'm going to start my screen share. I want to thank everybody for this opportunity. We're really excited because this past, okay, so hopefully everyone can see my screen. Okay, so this past release, we made a significant amount of enhancements as part of the industrial hygiene solution. I've exported out the release notes to give everybody a perspective of the volume of new features that we brought in as part of this round of release. Obviously, as you can see, there are many enhancements that have been included as part of this process. I don't have time to show all of them, just going to show the real critical ones that I think helped smooth some of maybe the clunkiness of the way that you would generate a couple different elements. And then also there was some ongoing requests around how to visualize some of the data, and we're going to focus on those particular elements. So the items that I've highlighted in yellow are going to be the ones that I'm primarily focusing on as part of today's demonstration. So coming to the system here, okay, let me start with the home page. And one of the things that I've done is I've created an industrial hygiene dashboard as part of the landing page. And the reason why I did this is because we made two enhancements as part of this process. Number one, we have a new widget that shows samples collected versus samples analyzed. I would recommend showing this in a traditional column view, because the idea is that these numbers here that represent the results received, the results approved, and the results invalidated, you want to be able to have some kind of comparison against the actual samples collected. The idea is that these results approved and results invalidated should be aligned with the amount of samples that have been collected. Obviously, results received will become results approved once they're done, so you will see some adjustments with those numbers. But it's a nice visualization, so that way if you see a big gap, then you can ultimately what needs to be addressed as part of that particular gap. Now, the second thing is that we brought in a copy feature. The reason why is that the widget itself has different filters that you could take advantage of as part of the process. So now, in the past, you would only be able to have one widget, and you'd have to set those result categories. Now you can copy the widget and then be able to separate things out. So like a great example, if you wanted to be able to just look at information that was unique for chemical, now you have the ability to do that. If you want to look at it specific to equipment type, you also have the ability to do that. So by copying it, it gives you more options so you can expand the visualization around your widget sets. Now, from the widgets, we're going to go right down the layers of the industrial hygiene module. So we're going to now move into assessments. We're going to talk about plans, then we're going to get into samples, and then chain of custody. So from an assessment standpoint, one of the things that we did, very simple change, but it was a nice way of improving the workflow of the copy feature. What happens now is that you have this export assessment to existing plan. So I've already done an assessment that was of a couple analytes. This has benzene, xylene, and toluene, as you can see. So now what happens is I select on this, I click Export Existing Plan, I hit OK. I'm going to now select which plan this goes into. I hit Risk Assessment Export, and now it's done. There used to be an added layer of this process that was a little clunky. We simplified it. So now you pick the assessment, you export that assessment, it goes straight into the plan. You don't have to go through this legacy process, which was you had to first select the plan, then select the assessment. It was kind of counterintuitive. So now we've simplified that. That will bring you right into the sample plan itself, which, interestingly enough, brings me to the next two elements that I want to discuss as part of this. There were two changes that we made as part of this sample plan. The first, when building out your sample plan records, you always had this option that showed baseline prior results. The past, we only had three options. We had baseline, above action level, and then above exposure limit. The baseline was derived based off of a fixed value that you would establish. Action level and exposure limit were derived based on an algorithm in the back end of the system. So we wanted to give our users more options. So some of our customers had explained that they may do routine sampling that doesn't necessarily matter whether it's above the action level or it's not a baseline, and they wanted to be able to establish some of those requirements. In other cases, they wanted to be able to have a fixed set of samples that they wanted to perform as part of that process as well that could be different from routine samples. So sometimes routine samples might be a little bit more low risk, where you're just doing one sample every single year to be able to address it. A fixed sample could be based off of a certain minimum requirements that you'd like to be able to address as part of that. So this provides more options. I do want to point out, you set the baseline, the routine, and the fixed. That's all set up in the back end of the system. So once you select on that information, the numbers will change down here automatically. Okay? So I'm going to hit the Save button, and that's going to move. Now I'm going to move to the next piece of the sample plan information that I want to show. Every year, we roll over the sample plans for our customers. What happens is sometimes certain sample plan records, the risks are low enough that you decide you're not going to sample for that particular year, but you don't want to eliminate it from the sample plan. So what happens is now we've provided an option that you could temporarily suspend doing it. So let's grab this one here, which is lead. So if I click on the sample plan record ID, as I scroll down to the bottom, you'll now see this new thing called sample plan record status. If I click on the edit button, I now have the option that I can close this out for the current plan. What happens then is when we roll it over, it will once again be displayed the next year's plan. So that way it reactivates itself so that way the user could be able to see it. If you decided that there is changes to the planning process and you no longer need to maintain this particular element, you can close it permanently. But it stays in the original plan so that way you have that legacy information in case you ever want to run reports and do those details. Okay? So that's the highlight piece of that. The next thing that I want to highlight is the fact that now we're going to move into the samples. We did create a new sample. So one of the things that's come up quite a bit is customers want to be able to perform an indoor air quality sample. So someone complains that there's an odor or it's musty in an area. This now gives you the ability to take a traditional indoor air quality sample that you can capture information, and everything is on one screen. What's nice is that you capture details, and then once you send this off to lab and you get the results back, you can come in here and document the information. Now, we are going to be expanding this process out. Right now, it's not as incorporated as part of a chain of custody process. The first goal was to get the samples options out there. The second goal is to be able to get an import utility brought into place to be able to bring these results back in. Because as you can see, there's a lot of different data points, but this gives you now the ability to document this information. None of these are mandatory because sometimes you may not have certain values, so therefore you'll just enter in the sample information specific towards that indoor air quality activity that you did. So that's a new sample type that you brought in. You can create this also as a plant sample. It can be done as an ad hoc sample. It works the same way as all the other ones. The last two items, I'm going to now click on Manage Samples here. When we go to the Manage Samples, one of the things that was brought up for many years by customers was to be able to see the sample results in the Manage screen. So guess what? We brought that in. At the end of the day, you still notice that you've got this information that shows multiple different samples. You've got multiple different results. We have tried to align based off the information that you see here, but needless to say, you may end up needing to still open this up to visualize these details. But the point is, you now see that we have this new information where you can see the sample results right here from the screen. It works great when you have just a single sample because ultimately now you bring that information over. And then also you can compare it against the status of the results category itself. So this just brings a new visualization. The other thing, too, that you'll notice here is there's an attachments option now. So in the event that you had attachments as part of a sample, now that information is there. There's only one last item to show as part of my piece, and that is the new form of the chain of custody. We used to have a wizard-based approach where there would be multiple steps to go in and create that form. Now everything is onto a single screen. So let's say we did a December 1st chain of custody. You can now come in here from the pick list. You'll click on this. The functionality is still the same, that it gives you the ability that once you select a sample from this pick list, it will not be available for future chain of custodies. From the drop-down, you picked your lab. From the details section here, now you can provide any instruction information. And once you're done, there still is a two-step process. You have to first save it before you can submit, but now you hit the Save button. Okay? Very important. Stay on the screen by hitting Cancel, and then you'll be able to submit to lab. You can also print these reports as well. Now I can submit to lab. So now we've gone through the process of submitting this chain of custody off to this particular lab, and now this information is done. So these were the critical elements that I wanted to highlight as part of my portion of today's demonstration. At this point, I'm going to turn things, I don't know if I'm the last one or if I'm turning things over to the next group, but that's my portion of this tips and tricks. So for all the industrial hygiene users, thank you for your attention and thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you so much, Greg, for presenting today. Now, I'd like to draw the audience to the Q&A bubble on the bottom left-hand side. We have been answering some questions throughout the session. We had great questions from the team in regards to App Builder, which you'll be able to see if you open up that little icon. But I would like for anyone who has any remaining questions to please feel free and stay on and ask your questions now. If not, we can always arrange some time or reach out to your customer success manager with any of the answers to your questions, as well as any configurations that you'd like to have turned on. So at this time, I'd like to ask anyone with any remaining questions to go ahead and submit and stay on the line with us. And for those of you who do not have any further questions, we would like to thank you for joining today's tips and tricks. As always, have very happy holidays. We will see you next year. You'll be hearing from us in January. We cannot wait to hear from you. If you have any topics that you'd like to hear about, please don't hesitate to reach out to your customer success manager. Let them know, as we are planning our topics for the entire year next year. So please don't hesitate, write it in the comments box, write it in the questions, or reach out to your customer success managers. Our bios on the right-hand side do have our email addresses as well in the event that you wanted to submit a topic to us directly. All right, everyone. Well, have very happy holidays and a very happy new year. Bye-bye.